Hello, everyone. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you this morning on Channel 9 and on WJOP-LP Newburyport, FM 96.3. We're also live streaming to you on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I'm just delighted to welcome today's guests. We're privileged to have three representatives of the Women in Action Huddle, who together have served as the strategic team planning a free bystander intervention training that they're bringing to Greater Newburyport on September 23rd from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Senior Center, or virtually if you prefer to attend that way. This training will be offered by the global people-powered organization Hollaback, which works to help people learn skillful and safe ways to respond to harassment. And so we have this morning, Paula Esty is here. Paula, good morning. Thank you so much for coming to the morning show. Good to
Glad
see
to
you.
be here. What a pleasure.
And we also have Debbie Hart-Klein. Good morning, Debbie. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Mary. Good morning, all. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. And also Maria Channon. Maria, welcome. Thanks so much for coming to visit the morning show. Happy to have all three of you here.
You're in speaker view.
And Tyler, I think you need to mute yourself. So Paula, I was hoping that you could start us off by talking a little bit about the huddle itself and how the bystander training came to be.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. The Women in Action Huddle of Greater Newburyport started in February 2017 in response to, guess what we all know, the election and so forth. And over the last 4.5 years, Mary, we have honed our mission down to three specific areas: the environment, human rights, and social justice. So every single month, the huddle produces a meeting in which we have speakers, spotlights on organizations around us that need help, and always action items. So we feel that we are an educational and action-oriented activist and support group. Last spring and late winter, if you remember, there was a lot of publicity and incidences that we were noticing around our community and other communities having to do with harassment, specifically or especially around the Asian population.
Yeah.
Last May, the huddle had a meeting, and we had both State Representative Tram Nguyen and also Deputy Director of Hollaback, Jorge Artiega, come and talk to us about. So Tram had a legislation that she actually helped to get passed in the Mass State Legislature that helped more punitive actions come against harassers. And Jorge, of course, has been working with Hollaback for quite some time. So after that meeting, and because Debbie had found, she produced, and she'll talk a little bit about it, this list of the incidences that we knew of in our area, we decided to really hunker down into the whole subject. And so throughout the summer, we've been planning this, and our hope and desire, Mary, is our mission for this bystander training is to gather in as many community voices from as many different organizations as we can: the schools, the Human Rights Commission, the city councilors. We've asked the mayor, all to be present to this training in order so that we can have a common language from which to proceed in our community. And that was the whole point. Come together, let's take this together, and then let's be able to talk about how we can actually do good change in our community together.
Well, and you know, the huddle, I know, has been responsible for many forms of active change. I see you not just as activists, but as warriors for positive social change. And so good on you for that. And I think it's important to keep this important topic in the forefront of people's minds, because it is really important, and it's really a serious problem that's been growing. But there's so much in the news today that it can be easy to lose track of what's going on. And so I personally am grateful to all of you for bringing this to our community. I think it's really important that we form a united front, because there's power in that. And so,
Exactly.
So Debbie, I think you've been gathering information about some of what has happened in our Greater Newburyport community, and I hope that you would share some of that with us now.
Sure. Yeah, I did. Well, we were preparing for our meetings this spring. we thought it'd be useful to get an understanding of what actually has happened in our area. So I researched incidents that had been reported both here in Newburyport and throughout Essex County. And I found a pattern, really. There were sort of 4 or 5 types of incidents that seemed to happen repeatedly in the region. And Newburyport was interesting because it's kind of a microcosm or a snapshot of everything that's happened throughout Essex County and beyond, because we've had a smattering of every one of these types. And the first is the vandalism or theft of Black Lives Matter and Pride flags. And we had a high profile incident at the Unitarian Church.
Yeah.
There's been Zoom bombing, which we had an incident with a school committee meeting Zoom bombed with racist and sexual slurs. And Zoom bombing has become, not surprisingly, because there's so much Zoom, kind of a common way of expressing hate. We had anti-Semitic graffiti in the girls' bathroom at the high school. And we had a couple instances of street harassment where passersby made racist and sexist slurs to people of color and women of color in one instance. And it's that sort of harassment that the training that we're doing will really address. But learning that made us realize that this isn't just out there in the paper, out there somewhere else in the world, that it happens here. So we thought having this training would be a very helpful way of making sure that folks here have a way of responding if they ever witness harassment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you found one of the leading trainers on anti-harassment skillfulness. And Maria, I think you were the person who encountered Hollaback. And I was hoping that you could tell us how you discovered them.
Sure. Well, it's a personal story. It came from my daughter, whose very good college friend is Chinese American, was on a hike with her husband in the woods in San Francisco when they pulled down their masks because no one was around and they just kept it dangling below their chin. When a woman, a little older, came up behind them and started verbally harassing her, calling it the China virus and your people. They decided to not engage, just keep moving, got to the safety of their car. And she got home and Googled, anti-hate Asian harassment, stumbled upon Hollaback and shared her story. That's one of the things they do really well too, is it's a place for anyone experiencing harassment to write about their story. She wrote about it, took a training, and then she did an email blast to everyone she knows, her family, her friends, coworkers, to get the word out that this is something that can happen even in the woods.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that personal story. And by the way, your daughter sounds like she deserves to be an honorary Women in Action huddler. Absolutely.
I wanted to say also that Maria has taken the training more than 4 times, I think.
Wow.
So she's pretty much an expert in it.
Well, Maria, could you tell us a little bit about the trainings that you've taken, what the focus was, what the experience was like, and what impact it had on you?
Well, what's really wonderful about the trainings is that you're on a webinar with thousands of people all over the United States and the world. And they started off usually with a poll to ask people, if you witness something, would you feel comfortable doing something? And the common reason people don't is they're fearful for their safety. They're afraid they'll make it worse. They just don't know what to do. And each one, it starts out with that, and then they actually show on the poll how many percentages of the people online, what their thoughts are. At the end of the training, when they give all these different scenarios of what you could do, which is the same process, pretty much it is, you come away empowered. And they do a poll, and it turns out that everyone typically feels they could do something, even very safely.
Yeah. Well, that sounds very strategic, both the sharing of stories, because that kind of grounds the training within the kinds of things that we've all witnessed or experienced ourselves. And that makes it feel real. And then I'm sure that it's helpful to people to be able to share the reasons why they might not have felt safe or comfortable intervening before, because I know for myself, that's a terrible feeling when you've seen or overheard something and you just don't know what to do. And so you kind of freeze and emerge then from a situation like that, feeling not only bad for the person, but bad inside, because it felt like, oh, I wish I coulda, woulda, shoulda, I guess. So that sounds like a very powerful kind of framing. And then, of course, having that many people involved starts to form a united front from the get-go. So it sounds like they've been very thoughtful about how they put this together. Well, thank you for that, Maria, and good on your daughter, because indirectly she's then led to us being here talking about this right now in our community, being about to be able to get the benefit of Hollaback's training. I'm curious. I've seen on your flyer that Hollaback utilizes what they call the 5 Ds in their training. And so, Debbie, I think you are an expert on what the 5 Ds are. And just to give people a sense for what the content of Hollaback's training is and the skills that they try and teach us, could you fill us in on the 5 Ds?
Yeah, sure. So the 5 Ds are the different ways that they recommend that you might respond in a given situation. One of the strengths, I think, of the Hollaback training is that it's not formulaic. They're not recommending sort of a one-size-fits-all approach. It really is, what are you comfortable with as a bystander, upstander, and what does the situation call for? So the 5 Ds, which is a really easy way to remember it if you're ever in this situation, are delay, distract, be direct, delegate, and document. And just by way of some quick examples, I'm not as an expert, but it's really great to take the Hollaback training and really learn about it. But just to give you some examples, delay would be if you don't do anything while the situation is happening, but you approach the victim afterwards, let them know that you support them, see if they need any help. That didn't stop what happened, but it goes a long way to make a victim feel like they're being supported and that what happened was wrong. Distract would be if you are walking by and say you bump into one of them, accidentally, and interrupt the flow, or you drop something loud and make a little bit of a scene to distract the situation. Direct is as it sounds. That's if you feel comfortable enough going up to them and telling the perpetrator, this is wrong, you need to stop. And that, of course, is the hardest thing, I think, for most of us to think about doing. Delegate would be if there's others around and you solicit help from somebody else, maybe somebody who looks bigger or braver, or can join you and you do it together, so you're not alone. And document is, take out your phone and take a video of the situation, and then you can share it with the victim and it can be used as evidence. I mean, we certainly saw that happen this summer.
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you keep those in mind, if you witness something, typically there is always something that you would feel comfortable doing. And as Maria said, by the end of the training, everyone changes their mind and says, yes, they would have been comfortable doing something. And what Hollaback does to really train about this is to have different scenarios. They will do a dramatization of a situation, and then they ask you through polling, how would you respond to this? And they talk through and people comment, and it's very eye-opening and enlightening. And I think the scenarios are a really useful way of making this really come to life and not be just theoretical.
Yeah.
Mary, I wanted to jump in here, if that's all right, because
absolutely.
I feel like to jump on what Debbie said is that those 5 Ds mean that we always have a tool. We always have some kind of a tool. Like when Maria and Debbie and I met yesterday, Maria gave the example of if something happened in the supermarket and, just drop a jar on the floor to just sort of, disperse the energy and call attention to it. So you always have a tool.
Yeah.
And the other part about it is for me, what I learned is I watched this video in preparation, and it was a video that was taken a long time ago, but it was an experiment. And a woman dressed as a homeless person experimented with being outside on the ground, writhing in pain, obviously really in trouble. And for 15 or 20 minutes, people literally walked over her,
Oh, gosh.
around by her. But Hollaback and other organizations talk about the power of one. And so when one person went up to her and asked if she needed help, all of a sudden, all the passerbys came over. Like, it only takes one voice, one action, one interruption to really, really make a huge difference. And when other people get involved, they feel better about themselves.
Yeah,
They feel
sure. Absolutely.
better that they've actually been able to help. So anyway.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I try and think about why one person going to the homeless person would lead to a group of feeling like approaching. And I think it's probably because it humanizes the person. If you have a
Yes.
single person approaching and treating somebody like a real live, genuine human being who's feeling pain or suffering, then it shifts something in other people's minds that might just overlook the person because the signifiers, their look, their dress,
Yes.
might just lead them to objectify the person. And so the power of one is a very powerful
Yes.
force indeed. I had the pleasure of attending that online meeting that you had with Tram and Jorge. And I was struck when they talked about the 5Ds, as you just explained them very well. Thank you, Debbie. They talked about, as you did, part of the delay can just mean, to go up to the person afterwards. And yet that's very powerful, because often what makes up, I see harassment as a form of absolute cowardice. And sometimes what enables the person to feel like they can harass is because they isolate somebody. They see somebody they think looks, vulnerable, and they'll go up to them. And so, and the person can feel very isolated when they've been harassed and people just are going about their business. Nobody knows, nobody cares. But just the power of going up to somebody afterwards and saying, gee, I saw what happened. That's really terrible. You didn't deserve that. And that really, that memory of that, when they talked about that, has stayed with me, thinking about, as you were saying, you've both been saying, Paula and Debbie, that's something I can do. That is absolutely something I can do. I hope I could do some of the other things too, but I know I could do that. I just might have thought about how powerful and important it is for the person who has suffered that verbal or emotional assault. And also, you mentioned, I like the example of in the grocery store, drop something, that disruption. Or I think the example Jorge might have given is just go up and in a loud voice, ask for directions. do you know where the spinach is? If you're in a store,
I'm lost.
I'm lost. And just, but just that disruption can shift the emotional and spatial dynamics sometimes that might be a preventive force. And so there are things that we can do. And I love these examples because these are, pretty possible for most of us to do. So thank you all for that. I'm curious, do any of you know, I know that Hollaback was started in reaction to an experience on street harassment by one of its founders, because I was reading about them online, and they're such a wonderful activist organization. But do any of you know if they also do anything about online harassment, because that is such a powerful and almost ubiquitous kind of form of harassment today? Maria, looks like you're nodding.
Yeah, I went online just to see what courses are available right now, and online harassment is one of them, as is, what were the other ones I saw? Anti-Asian, street harassment. They pick various dates, various times, and you can they're free. It's 1 hour of your time to plant a seed of what you could do. And the more you do them, the more examples you see, and it just kind of registers somewhere in your subconscious,
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mary, the organization started in 2005, basically to address sexual harassment on the streets.
Yeah.
And they have their pivots reflect the challenges, the difficulties, and where we really are at, because so many of the trainings now are about racism. So much of it is about racism, and that's not where they started necessarily. I mean, certainly they do harassment training on sexual harassment and so forth, but a lot of it is about anti-racism now.
Yeah.
And if it's okay, I'll just add, we're really excited that they've agreed to do this training with us.
Yeah.
As Paula said, their courses, I know Maria attended one with 3,000 people. I attended one with 1,200.
Wow.
So to be able to do it here
Yeah.
with just local people, there will be obviously more of a local flavor and a more, relaxed and intimate kind of gathering, whether people come in person or by Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity. I hope everyone in our community will avail themselves of it, because I know these are issues that our community cares about, and to help people feel empowered to be skillful at it is a wonderful thing. Were you going to say something, Paula?
No, I just feel like I hope a lot of people come too, because, the huddle is this, like, we're an activist group, but we're also warm and fuzzy, and we like gathering. That's what we do, when we do it out on the rail trail in gardens, we do it at our meetings educationally. We're just trying to get common dialogue going, because we feel like that's the basis of all good change, really.
I
Yes,
just want to
go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
I just wanted to add that I started reading some of the stories. I mean, it really makes you aware of what people are going through in different parts of the country or world. And they're also training people globally. There's like a 6-month training course that people can participate in. It feels like, and they do say the word movement. It's a movement. And I really think we can be the change. And if my daughter's telling me about her friend who I knew well, got me to talk to the huddle, and I'm hoping it becomes like a domino, that we spread it far and wide, and you tell your relatives in other states, and that's what I'm hoping.
Well, I think it's a testimony to the effectiveness of their strategy that it began, I think, in New York City. As you were saying, but on street sexual harassment, and has grown then now to be a global organization, spreading around the world. And I think it's to their credit that they also adapt to whatever kind of harassment is currently bedeviling our communities, because that changes too. And the fact that it's now race-based is sad, but perhaps not surprising, given some of the forces that are at work in our culture right now. And I know I was also reading online in relationship to what you were saying about their transformational aspirations, that what they really want to do, and God bless them and God help them, is transform different cultures, so that they no longer create a permission, kind of a permissive environment for harassment, that the message comes across clearly and loudly, that we are a united front. And that there isn't aren't cultural reinforcements for people harassing people about race or sexuality or anything. And God love them for having that kind of aspiration, but they sound as though they may well accomplish it. Let's hope so.
Yes.
Because they're making everyone into a warrior in a way that is doable and you can understand, and you can picture yourself doing at least some of the 5 Ds that as you were describing them, Debbie. Well, I'd like to ask what each of you are most excited and hopeful about, the impact that this training could have on our community here in Newburyport.
Maria, why don't you start?
Well, I guess I'm so proud of our group for really going big on this. And I'm really hopeful that we'll talk to our family, friends, neighbors, and more people will, spread it far and wide, because it is a movement. It's a movement that we can all be a part of. So personally, that's my thought, is that we become a megaphone for this organization, because I think they do this really, really well. And it's researched and I just am so excited about them. It's free for folks, but they rely on donations. They have corporate sponsors. They're just awesome.
Mhm. Yeah,
Thank
great. Thank you for that, Maria. How about Debbie or Paula?
Debbie, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I'm really, I love the idea of empowering as many people as possible. I feel like the training made a difference for me. I mean, after I took one of the courses, I witnessed something and I responded in a way that I think I'm not sure if I would have if I hadn't taken this training. So my hope is that we're able to do that for many more people, because the more of us that stand up, the less it ends up happening. You know, it'll take a long time, but that's the ultimate goal.
Debbie, how did it make you feel when you were able to do something?
I felt great. And I mean, the situation was a little different than this. It was at a dog park, and somebody's dog was being attacked by another, and the owner of the attacking dog was not too empathetic or helpful. Anyway, I saw it from a distance and took out my camera and videotaped it. And then when it was all over, I went up to the guy whose dog was attacked, and I got his information. I sent him the video. I told him I saw it. I felt terrible. How was his dog? It obviously made a difference to him. At least outwardly, that's what he said, and that's what he was so upset by it. And I have no idea if he used the video or if it made a difference, but I could tell that just going up to him. And if I hadn't had the training, well, I'm not sure. I don't think I would have thought to like whip out my phone.
Yeah, and document.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel that way too. And so I'm just going to piggyback on that because I feel like my mission for this is quite large. Like I really see this possibility for my community, which I am so deeply embedded in and love, an opportunity to find common language so that we can literally eradicate harassment around us.
Yeah.
But also I want to say that one of my goals and missions is what Debbie was talking about, that when we empower ourselves to help somebody else, it literally changes consciousness. It truly does, because it is an empowering feeling to know that something we can do can help change something that we feel is not right or bad.
Yeah.
And I think that the more we do that, the more we know that our voices can be heard, the more we'll do, the more we will do. So I think that the overarching effect is a domino. And from here, who knows, maybe we can help the Supreme Court act better, or
we all know what you mean.
or state governors, or anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I know there's a lot of need.
Yes.
And we know which states.
Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
so yeah, that's very well put, Paula, about the transformative effect of the power of one is both an internal experience and also hopefully an external radiance.
Yes.
You know, that ripples outward and can have a transformative effect. So thank you all for that. Very well put. So let's talk logistics because we want to make sure people know, where they can go, how they can attend, how they get more information. So let's fill people in on the logistics of the program.
So let's see, this takes place on September 23rd, as you said, at the top of the hour, so to speak. September 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Newburyport Senior and Community Center, 331 High Street. Doors open at 6:45. It's also available as a webinar online. And as most people know, when it's a webinar, it's not quite as much participation, but you'll be able to get all, certainly all of the training, and there's opportunity for dialogue through the chat. The way that you find that link is a couple of different ways. We have posters on the outside of the gallery at 3 Harris Street. We have a Facebook page, the Women in Action Huddle, and it is pinned to the top of the page, the live link. How else can they get that live link? I think that's about it. Or call me.
Well, there you go.
Or email me. Yes.
there are ways to get the information. So please do. It sounds like
Yes.
such a wonderful program, and I'm grateful to all of you for bringing it to Newburyport. I was excited about it before, but I'm only more excited now.
Oh,
So
it's a pleasure, Mary. Such a pleasure. It always is to talk to you. Thank
well, back at you. And thank you not just for this program, but thank you for all the amazing work that the Huddle does on lots of different issues that you just enhance and empower our community in many different ways. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Paula, Debbie, and Maria, very much for taking the time to visit the morning show today to tell us more about Hollaback and about the training and about your personal views and experiences. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mary.
Have a great
You're
day,
very
everybody.
welcome.
Great
Thank-
job, you guys.
Thanks
Bye.
very much, you guys. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you'll join us next Thursday at 9 a.m. on Channel 9 for the morning show, when I'll have a speaker who's very knowledgeable about the growing threat of white nationalism and can help us understand better how it's distinctive and why it's been growing, how it's been growing, and we hope what we can do about it. So please join us for that next Thursday. If you missed any part of today's show, it'll be available for viewing on Port Media's YouTube channel playlist for the morning show at ncmhub.org. Each show will also air on WJOP FM 96.3 on Friday at 8 a.m. and then again the following Tuesday at 4 p.m. and Wednesday at 3 p.m. and will also be available as a podcast on the SoundCloud. Just go to ncmhub.org, click on the cloud icon in the upper right-hand corner and scroll down. That's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much. See you next Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.